This vehicle is, as I said before, will be assigned to the deputy chief primarily and any other officer as on an as-needed basis, and is to be used to carry, and as I said, a number of tools which are now used and have been for about 15 years in the fire service. It's taught at all levels of national and state fire academies and command and control, and that's what that's about. To stand outside in the weather, to be exposed to that needlessly when you're trying to keep a calm, cool head in a larger situation, is not conducive to good decision-making, command and control. This doesn't work anywhere else. The military showed it and proved it over the past 30 years. The fire service learning from wherever it can. Police departments do the same. Primarily, it's just a calm, cool place you can set off a little bit for distance, feed information in and out, using tabletop references and so forth, a little bit of light, maybe a little bit of warmth so your fingers don't fall off in the middle of the winter, a little bit of shade in the summertime, and that's what it's about.
Mr. Pasquale.
I'm not finishing my follow-up, if you don't mind.
Well, sir, you have used up 2 shots.
You win, Mr.
Out of your 1 shot.
He's a
Mr.
senior
Pasquale.
like me. He's a senior like me, losing a little bit. John Pasquale, 12 Hickory Lane. Chief, the last time I counted, the town is only 32 square miles, 8 across, 4 down. 80% of your talk is based or predicated on Concord Street and hazmat. I just had a recent conversation with my son-in-law about the gas guzzler he got. You want to save money? That's what you got there. So we got a nice fancy gas guzzler, and I hear the Me Too attitude. Like they have it, we got to have it. I haven't seen a fire truck in Hickory Lane in 7 years. So what do we need, you know, all of this stuff here is what people sitting around, it's paper pushing. If you need charts in a computer, put it in your car with you and respond to the fire. Now I see the tip of the iceberg, Chief, because I see other articles that call emergency service, we gotta need this and that, and I see things starting to, you know, link together. We can't afford this kind of a toy. It's a toy. I've been down south. I've been out west. Yes, they got acres and acres of land they got to go through. There's forest fires. We just had all this development did we would have the fires we used to have in town.
I wish,
the other question is...
Mr. Pasquale, if you will just listen to the chair for a second.
I shall, sir.
I would prefer if you kept your remarks at a less emotional level.
I shall try.
Please.
It's my observation that these vehicles can be used other than at the fire. I mean, you could take it home. Is that correct?
Is that a question, sir? I'm not quite
That's
clear.
a question.
Well, okay. I'm not clear where you're going with this.
I want to know if the vehicle can be taken home.
The deputy chief is assigned a vehicle, which he takes to his home, and he responds directly from his home to all incidents when he's available. If he's not available, and it's a large enough incident, the vehicle will be brought to the scene.
I'm sorry.
We don't have the large enough department where we have what is referred to as passive command, such as a Tewksbury or an Andover, where there is a person assigned to that vehicle 24/7. This is a vehicle. We operate a department that is essentially a volunteer/call department, if you will, in function with 3 people responding initially, if they happen to be in the fire station and already tied up. The deputy chief responds to somewhere well above 90% of all callbacks. And when he's not going to be around, if he's away on vacation, that vehicle will be assigned back to the station or to the next senior person, fire captain, who would then be responsible to respond in that nature. This vehicle will not be used by me personally, if that's your concern, sir.
Oh, it's going to be used by somebody. You just said the chief's going to. I'm just voting against it. No hard feelings.
Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Piero,
Mr. Chief, you just heard the finance...
could you please state your name and address, Mrs. Piero?
Jerry Piero, 17 Rogers Circle.
Thank you.
You just heard the finance committee, the selectmen, they try to lean out the system, and you try to make a fat system. Does that make sense? $35,000. You don't need that any more than I need a hole in my head.
Please state your name and address, ma'am.
Leslie Mazzoni, 38 Tower Hill Road. With all due respect, Chief, I'm just wondering, I'd like to hear why the selectmen are voting against this. What I heard was several things. Other towns have it with a list of the towns. You know, other towns have a lot of nice things, and we don't. And to me, it appears to be kind of a luxury, if you'll excuse my saying that. I just think in a year like this, when the need seems so great, I realize that your vehicles are old, but it seems like right now is maybe not the time that this town can afford this. So I'd like to hear why the selectmen voted against.
Mr. Bagan?
Jim Bagan, 86 Marblehead Street. The selectmen voted 2-2 not to recommend this. One of the reasons I think we are all aware of is that there are other priorities in town right now. We also felt that it was excessive, as you people obviously do. We have a third ambulance that has been used and recommended, quite frankly, as a command vehicle for the police. It could be used for the fire. It was good enough to be used as a first-line ambulance down in Reading over the holidays. So I think we could possibly switch around, move some vehicles, move some resources, and I think we can make everything work for the town. I don't think we need this at this time, and that was the recommendation of 2 members of the board. Thank you.
Mr. O'Leary?
I was one of the 2 members of the board that is recommending in favor of this. What we're faced in relation to the equipment needs of the fire department right now is a couple of vehicles. The fire chief's car, the deputy chief's car, our old cruisers, and as you said, another car was 1989, which was the last time that the vehicle was purchased for the command staff or the chief of the fire department. What we're talking about here is if we don't purchase this, we're still going to have to purchase some other sort of vehicle for either the chief or the deputy chief. The original proposal was for 2 new vehicles, one for the chief and the deputy chief. The Board of Selectmen said, no, too much, too soon, too often, not yet, sorry. What we're talking about is buying something like a Crown Victoria, which is a package deal that you buy through the state bid, somewhere around between $26,000 and $28,000. If you don't buy this, we would be coming forth with a recommendation for that. What was presented to us was an opportunity to upgrade the vehicle to a command type vehicle which could respond more appropriately to different incidents which we have had in the past, particularly the hazardous materials handling situation. The chief made a very good presentation to us, a little more detailed presentation as to the need for this type of vehicle. We're talking about $8,000 more in order to upgrade four-wheel drive, larger command vehicle, which would be more conducive to handling a situation at any given time. I'm as stingy as the next when it comes to spending our tax dollars and trying to prioritize things. By the same token, we're driving around in a couple of vehicles that have in excess of 130,000 actual miles on the car. That doesn't include the running time that these vehicles have had as being former police cruisers. I mean, it's probably the equivalent of 300,000 or 400,000 miles. So it's a situation where we were in need of a vehicle. One of the major concerns of the board, again, was how much availability was going to be of this particular vehicle, which is why it's not going to be the chief's car at this particular time. What we're talking about is primarily assigned to the deputy fire chief, who lives in Strawberry Lane for the most part, from what I understand and what I know of the guy. I mean, he lives and works in North Reading, vacations in North Reading, and he's in North Reading 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for the most part. And if he's not in town and not going to be here, it will be assigned back to the station and to the captain or whoever's in charge of the particular shift at that particular time, so this vehicle can respond on an as-need basis. I think it's important. The technology that's available now to our community in fighting certain situations that the fire department is confronted with is a little bit different than it used to be. We no longer are a bucket brigade. You know, we're no longer faced with situations where the barn down the street is just burning down. We have an awful lot of situations that this department has to respond to and has responded very well over the last few years with very limited resources. And I think this is a wise expenditure on a particular vehicle, and again, the decision to support this did not come easily, and it did not come about with without an awful lot of discussion. and as far as where it was going to be and how it was going to be appropriated, as far as the time allocation and how it was going to be able to respond to the situation. So we're talking about a difference of about $6,000 or $8,000 to upgrade the vehicle and give them something that they can work out of. Maps and everything else are going to be rolled up inside this particular vehicle so they can take it out, lay it out, rather than on the hood of the car. So I think it's a wise expenditure at this particular point in time for short money. Thank you.
Gentleman in the aisle, please state your name and address, sir.
Larry Susi, 4 Elston Road. As a resident of North Reading, we trust our lives to the fire department. So let's not try to micromanage everything. If the fire chief says we need a fire truck, let's get him the fire truck. Thank you.
Gentleman behind. Please state your name and address, sir.
Glenn Leslie, 16 Lindor Road. Chief, we going to use this vehicle to replace some vehicles that you already have? Are you going to take some vehicles off the road if you get this vehicle?
Yeah, we'll eliminate at least one of the sedans, which are currently is a recycled police cruiser, which is somewhere around 120 some odd plus thousand miles on it. That's
okay. So we pay insurance and plates and all that stuff on those vehicles too, right? And
the plates, there is no cost for plates for municipal vehicles, and I believe I have to defer what the cost per vehicle is for vehicle insurance. About how much?
Are they costing a lot of money to keep them on the road with repairs and such?
Well, yeah, currently, yes. The older vehicles, you start running a car up around 100,000 miles, it does get, maintenance high, obviously.
Okay.
The vehicle we're buying is a little, a little heavier duty. We're anticipating, by the way, and I ask your indulgence for forgetting this, but we expect about 10 years out of these vehicles anyways. This is a long-term vehicle.
Well, especially if you're only driving it a mile back and forth to the
well, one would expect
firehouse.
that, but it also does a lot of sitting and idling.
Are there any other benefits to this vehicle that you wouldn't have driving a refurbished police cruiser? Like, is it better in the snow? Is it able to go to emergency areas that you couldn't get to in a cruiser, like swampland or bad terrain or stuff like that? In other words, there's a lot more uses for this vehicle than there is for one of these old Band-Aid cruisers that we got.
Obviously, a four-wheel drive vehicle, which, if you look around, especially in this community, or anybody commutes back and forth from Boston or up and down 128, 495, 95, about 50% of the vehicles are four-wheel drive vehicles now, it seems. Obviously, we live in an area of the country that it snows basically any time from October to April. It's a type of vehicle. Police cars are built for one thing, essentially, is to drive around and drive real fast when they need to. We don't need to drive real fast. We need to get from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time, safely, and get through anything that heavy weather. Yes, we do have the ability to drive off-road with a four-wheel drive vehicle that we might not have with a cruiser.
So you might be able to do some kind of rescue operation with this that you couldn't do with a cruiser.
This vehicle would be, yeah, it would be sufficient for something like that. Absolutely, it would have that capability.
Okay. When the cost of this for $36,000, am I to understand that this includes all of the things that you need that go on the back of it?
Yes, it is.
Computers and all of this
yes, it
space
is.
and the equipment and such?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of this stuff we already have in-house.
All right. Folks, I'd just like to point out to you that if you want to buy one of these SUVs down at the auto mall or whatever, you're going to spend somewhere between $22,000 and $32,000 for the vehicle in the first place. Plus, it's got all this other stuff. And if you'll recall, when they were talking about at the beginning of the meeting tonight, all of the plans that we have for we need a school and we need this and we need that, the fire department happens to be at the very bottom of the list for anything. So it would seem that this would be the right thing and the reasonable thing to do is to give these guys the tools that they need, since they're going to be stuck over there in that small building for a long time because they're at the bottom of our list. So there you have it.
Gentleman in the rear, please. State your name and address, sir.
It would depend. We would respond out of the community if we felt it was necessary and an appropriate thing to do, although any of our vehicles that respond mutual aid, unless they are actually operating at a fire and cannot leave because obviously it would be detrimental to that operation, we always have the ability to recall them. We do not give out mutual aid to a situation where it would endanger